Hey guys, so I finally rolled a decent spec for Season 9, and I'm not gonna lie, I've been playing on the server a little more now, and it's been pretty fun. I'm doing like 14k DPS on the dummy, which is good. That's really good. And I've also been pugging some raids, so I do have some gear now. I'm just running full might with strength. And then for the weapons, I'm using swords. The reason I'm using swords is because I rolled sword specialization talent, so that's what I'm gonna be using. But I think axe is probably a little bit better. But regardless, it probably doesn't matter too much. The one thing I want to point out is the trinkets. So normally people run two cannonball runners, right? Because it's the most attack power trinket you can find at this point in the game. But actually, if you take a look at this trinket, the Ramstein's lightning bolts, it's actually better. So I'll show you what I mean. So here we have 520 without the trinkets, right? So if you use the cannonball runner, go up to 532. So that's like 12 weapon damage increase. But if we compare that to the lightning bolt, we're at 546, almost double of the cannonball runner. So it's really nice to have these two trinkets. And if you're playing like a physical spec, you want to consider using this trinket. So I'll show my talents and abilities. I got Dragon Charge. Dragon Charge on its own is awful, right? Doesn't do much, and it like shares cooldown with charge. So if you use Dragon Charge, you gotta wait a couple of seconds till you can use charge again, which is just terrible. But because I rolled like Draconic Might, it makes it kind of worth it. So it's just free 5% damage, and because Dragon Charge is off GCDs, just free damage. And the same goes for Warcry. It's off GCD. The ability on its own is terrible, but because I have, battle fatigue, it makes it really, really worth it. I'll show you guys a little trick with battle fatigue later, but let's just go back to the abilities. So, Felling Fuse Weapon, the most broken enchant in the game. Pretty sure everyone knows that. And the Hayfoot Strike, also really good. It's just 10% strength. And it's also on a lower GCD, so it just kind of helps with the rotation, makes it more smooth. And then Shattering Throw, Titanic Strike. Of course, I have Titan's Fury with Titanic Strike, right? Otherwise, it's not really worth getting. But if you have these two, it's really, really OP. 20% physical damage increase. And the thing about Titan's Fury is that you can have 100% uptime if you're really good, because you can just consume all the rage, and then you can build it back up, and then just do it over and over again. So really good to have if you're like a physical spec. Then Group Bashi Rage, of course, and then Blood Rage. I also roll Rockbiter, and the reason I'm keeping it is because I'm just preparing for the Felling Fuse Weapon nerf. If that happens, I compare the damage difference between Rockbiter and Felling Fuse Weapon. So with Felling Fuse Weapon, I'm getting like 14k DPS, and then with the Rockbiter, I'm getting like 13k. So the difference is not too bad, about 1k difference. But if they do nerf like Felling Fuse to the ground, which they might, and they're pretty terrible at nerfing stuff. So if they do nerf it, it's probably going to die really, really hard. So at least I have a backup to replace it. And then Bladestorm, got pretty lucky with that. Nice to have for AoE. Hunger for Blood, and of course, Single Minded Fury, the core ability of this spec. And then Battle Fatigue. So what I was saying earlier is when you use a shout, you get 10% damage increase to like targets around you. But this has a 30-second cooldown, so you can't use BSHOUT twice, right? But what you can do is you can use BSHOUT first, and then after the 20 seconds, you don't have to wait like another 10 seconds. You can just use Warcry because they don't share the same ICD. So you can use BSHOUT first, and then use Warcry, and then because the buff lasts 20 seconds, the ICD for BSHOUT, it's done. So you can use BSHOUT, Warcry, and then BSHOUT. So you have like 1 minute of 10% damage pretty much, and it's pretty OP. But yeah, I don't know if that's intended, but if it is, I hope they keep it. It's nice it's nice, it's pretty fun. And then Southpaw Strike, I got lucky. I got both Southpaw and Dominant Strike, so ambidextrous as well. So I got both of them, which just complements this build really good, right? Because I have Single Minded Fury. And then of course the core legendary ability of this build is Gurubashi Berserker, I would say, because it makes everything just more smooth. It lowers your GCD and everything, so you just spam your skills really fast without having like that delay. And it just feels better with Gurubashi Berserker. And Tools of Wars, I got really lucky. I rolled this last night, and with the spec, I get to like maybe between 5 and 8 stacks, right? So if I play the build good enough, I can get really good damage from it. And then Blades of Blood, I'm keeping this even though I don't have Warwind, because you know I'm going to roll Warwind eventually, right? I hope. Anyways, I'm keeping this because I also rolled roll a Rage, and when I use Warwind, this grants me Blood Rage, you know, which procs Enrage. So I'm also having Rage here. So using Warwind gives me Enrage, which gives me Raging Blows, which is they go good together. That's why I'm keeping it for now. And Overheating, sadly I didn't roll Overheating Strikes, but having Overheating is not too bad. It works well with Dragon Charge. It's like 4% of my damage, which is pretty good. And then Overwhelming Rage, you know, of course, and Rage, and then Deep Wounds. So I won't go over the talents, but for talents, I just roll whatever. If I have physical percent, I just kept it. So most of it is just physical percent. So here's the DPS breakdown for my spec. I kind of cheated a little bit here because I built up common points ahead of time to proc Titan's Fury instantly. But you should be doing this in raids anyways. You know, build up common points on like critters or trash mobs just to prepare for the boss, so you don't have to waste time building it up on the boss. Anyways, the spec has like a lot of buffs to track, and it's overwhelming. So I made some weak Rs, but not the greatest making weak Rs. Weak Rs are kind of helpful. They show you what's up and what's not, but even then I still forget to like keep track of my buffs. Like for example, I overstack Raging Blows, and then sometimes I forget to proc ambidextrous offhand using Bloodthirst. And then sometimes I even drop Titan's Fury and I don't notice it. And then same with like Enrage, I forget that's up. You can see here I forgot, so I had to press Blood Rage and lost some DPS from that as well. But you can see the DPS is really good, doing like 14.5k here. But you know, it evens out around 14k, which is really good for like a physical spec, right? Because most of the specs that are dominant right now is casters. So having a physical spec that does 14k is really nice. And then one thing is I kind of made a macro for it, like one button macro, and it kind of works. So it's just using Slam, Raging Blow, Hateful Strike, and then Slam again. So this is my main rotation that I'm spamming, and then for the rest of it, I'm just keeping track of it manually. And yeah, that's pretty much my build. It's mostly just being able to manage all the buffs properly and being able to have the most uptime on them. It's kind of annoying to track them all, but it's always satisfying doing big damage to strength users. Anyways, here's the damage breakdown. You can see Fell Infused Flame is 14% of my damage, followed by auto hits. And then Raging Blow is of course my top damage. If you combine both hands, about like 17%. And then Slam. But I think using double Rock Biter in the long run is probably better since I'm running full physical. So having that extra AP might just scale better than using Fell Infused Flame, looking at the damage breakdown.